My voice went all funny there. Hello, everyone. I hope you are well today. This is what's happening now, your UK economy and small business update. Thank you for joining me and tuning in, of course, at a slightly later time this week. Our typical time is 11 a.m. on Thursdays, but because of other commitments, we are later this week. But nonetheless, thank you for joining me today. As always, I massively appreciate you tuning in. If you are new to me and you're wondering who I am, my name is Annette Ferguson. I am CEO of Annette Co, UK-based accounting firm. I'm a chartered accountant, certified profit first professional, and small business growth strategist. And fundamentally, we help business owners take home more money from their business for them and their families to enjoy through a mixture of profitability, accounting, and tax management strategies. So this session on a Thursday is all about me filling you in on what's been happening economy-wise and with small business over the last week that is relevant to small business owners. So as always, I have a lot of notes to consult as I do this so that I get quotes and stats and all those good things right. So that is what I am doing. If I am looking down or looking around, you will understand the reasoning behind that. Now, if you are tuning in, I would love if you can give me some thumbs up, some likes, some love, some hearts, some shares, whatever they are called on whatever platform you are watching. And if you're not already following me on the platform you are tuning in, please do make sure that you hit that follow, subscribe, again, whatever it is called on whichever platform you are watching. So the content for today heavily focuses actually on the governor of the Bank of England. He pops up in a number of segments that I'm covering off this afternoon. He's a theme, shall we say, that runs through today's session. So the first thing that I want to speak about is when I spoke this time last week, or rather earlier, it was last week, we had not yet had the interest rates announcements. And so we have since then had a quarter point increase up to 4.25%. And that was basically the February inflation surprise that sealed that Bank of England rate rise. And Andrew Bailey, the Bank of England's governor, is quoted as saying, "We believe inflation will begin to fall quite rapidly before the summer, but as yesterday's release for February shows, we need to see that actually happen." So therefore, they don't want to not put interest rates up based on speculation. They want to use the solid data, and that's what they're making the decision on. That is what he's telling us with that statement, is that they will make decisions based on actual data and not thoughts, hopes, and estimates. So 4.25 is now what we see the interest rate at from the as I say, from a 0.25% increase. We are also hearing that IR35 tax receipts are set to double to 1.5 billion a year. So thousands more UK workers are now being treated as employees rather than self-employed as a result of changes that we had to IR35. Of course, Liz Truss's disastrous mini budget attempted to repeal some of the parts of that act, but of course that was then re-reversed, and so IR35 still stands. So we're told that about 1.5 billion is expected to be raised on average each year as a result of the rule changes introduced 2 years ago, according to the Office for Budget Responsibility, who's the government's fiscal watchdog. This doubles the previous estimate for the gains generated annually. And this follows a government decision in 2016 to tighten the rules, making it harder for workers to maintain a self-employed status. Now, the important thing to understand here is that an employment status is not of your choosing. There are various elements that go into it that determine actually what you are, whether you are an employee or whether you're able to be treated as self-employed. You cannot just turn up and say, "I want to be self-employed, therefore I am." When you work for somebody, there's a checklist to go through. If you are unsure of that, if you're looking to take someone in your team on and you're unsure of that, there is actually a checker on the HMRC website where you can go through and answer a series of questions to figure out whether this person is likely to be an employee or whether they are self-employed working for you. So, as I say, in 2016, the rules were tightened, and that therefore meant that more people actually came under the employee umbrella rather than the self-employed umbrella, and therefore more tax receipts are being generated as a result of that. So we're seeing that rising sales and business activity is said to be pointing to UK economic resilience. Figures published on Friday show the economy is faring markedly better, considering the headwinds basically that it's facing. The UK economy may be more resilient than thought in the face of rising inflation, higher borrowing costs, and of course now banking turmoil as well, according to data released on Friday, showing that retail sales and consumer sentiment are actually up and business activity has expanded. So the volume of retail sales, or the amount of goods sold in UK shops, increased by 1.2% in February after a 0.9% jump the previous month, according to the Office of National Statistics. Analysts had actually predicted a smaller rise of around 0.5%. So it was the first time since August 2022 that sales rose to pre-pandemic levels, which is obviously great news for the retail sector. Data suggests some economic resilience in the face of all these challenges that we're actually experiencing just now. And the Bank of England governor, here he features again, Andrew Bailey, said in a BBC interview on Friday that he expected that Britain would now avoid recession this year. He is quoted as saying the prospects for the economy in terms of growth are better, considerably better. So he also urged businesses to assume low inflation when setting prices. This is really interesting that that assumption is being put forward, or being suggested to be put forward by Andrew Bailey. It's interesting because when businesses put up and up and up and up prices, then actually they end up fueling inflation, and it's a very difficult kind of cycle to start getting out of. But if businesses are setting prices assuming lower inflation, that helps curb inflation. So there's a little bit of a chicken and egg situation there. But also, if we are assuming lower inflation, then that is a good thing for business too. Andrew Bailey is featuring again here because he said on Monday that recent financial turmoil would not stand in the way of the central bank controlling inflation with high interest rates as needed. In a speech to the London School of Economics, he stressed that the UK's financial system is resilient, with robust capital and liquidity positions, and well placed to support the economy. This is, of course, on the back of some banking issues that we've seen in other countries particularly. He made no reference to the possibility that lending might be curtailed, instead reiterating the Bank of England's position that interest rates would need to rise further if, and again I quote, any signs of persistent inflationary pressure were detected. He then goes on to say, we have to be very alert if the signs become evident. Further monetary tightening would be required. In questions after his speech, he insisted that nothing had recently happened in the financial markets to make the 9 members of the Monetary Policy Committee who set the base rates act in any way to soothe tensions. So he is saying here that they are not against increasing interest rates again. So, don't hold your breath that they are not going to increase for the rest of the year, which there's some speculation on. He's saying, actually, we may very well do that if we need to. So that is something to bear in mind, despite him, of course, saying that businesses should assume low inflation when setting prices. And the final thing I wanted to flag up today is actually inflationary based as well, and that is around food inflation. So what we are seeing is that annual price rise hit 15% in March as the cost of living crisis shows no sign of letting up. Shortages of fruit and vegetables have helped push UK food inflation to a record high in March, according to the latest industry data, suggesting there was little sign of any letting up for households struggling with the cost of living crisis, and of course for businesses that are buying in food. Restaurants, pubs that serve food, all those kinds of things are also being hit by these these food price inflation statistics. So annual food inflation reached 15%, up from 14.5% in February, and the highest since records began in 2005. The British Retail Consortium said on Tuesday. The biggest price rise has affected fresh foods, with inflation up 0.7 points to 17% when we look at fresh foods. So this is, of course, going to cause things like restaurants some really big issues, actually, because it is likely that they will have to, of course, put up prices to cover these increased costs. But at some point, consumers will stop spending certain amounts because they believe that there's a ceiling for certain foods in certain places. And so it's causing a problem, a real problem in the hospitality industry in particular, when we're seeing this type of inflation in food, and of course hitting households at the same time. Anything that of course hits households too means that they have less spending power when it comes to being consumers in the country, and therefore can impact our small business sales as well at the same time. So lots going on with the Bank of England there. Not really any great happy news this week that I've managed to pick out and find, really, when it comes to small business. But that is the situation we are in at the moment. Those are the updates for small business and the UK economy for this week. Now I will be off next week. I am on holiday next week, so I am going to be off. I'm not going to be live next week, but I will be back the following week at the usual time of 11 a.m. So do make sure you schedule that in your diary to come and tune in. Of course, I will also be back the Tuesday of that week for Training Tuesday as well. So once again, please do join me for that. It would be lovely to see you all. And I hope that today's session has been useful. Thanks again for tuning in. Do make sure that you remember and give me those thumbs up, so those likes, those loves, those hearts, those shares. It means a huge amount to me, and it helps other people find us as well. And I will see you all very, very soon. Take care, everyone.